Thank you for having me.
So the first thing that I have to know is how does this feel, being in limbo for so long and now to have an owner again? How's the feeling around the organization?
Feels weird, to be honest. I mean, I'm super excited. I'm super excited. Like a negative way. It feels like it's been a long time, or at least a long time since we've had somebody on like a positive note. I mean, we had ownership, I guess, 2 years ago, but even then they were already ready to sell us. So there hasn't really been a time in my recent history where I can remember having an owner that, you know, was excited or didn't feel like a dread associated with like spending on us or just thinking about utilizing us in a more positive light. So it's kind of wild. It hasn't really fully sunk in yet because it's only been a couple days, but I'm definitely super
Is there like anything that you guys haven't been able to do, you know, that you have sort of in the pipes working that you've just sort of been waiting for this to happen in order to hit the gas on?
I mean, like there are signings and stuff. I don't know too much, but it's obviously, it got to a point where you don't really want to sign a new player if you're going to have to sign them to the old organization and then have to transfer all their benefits and stuff to the new one. So from like a logistical piece, there's that. But I mean, over the past year or two, there's definitely been a lot of opportunities that couldn't happen solely because there wasn't really a budget for it. And I mean, I could go into depth about like staff and management and like how losing staff never really meant they were going to get replaced. So it's kind of been bare bones for a while.
Well, we're glad to finally have you in the family. I myself have actually been a Outlaws fan since your branding was revealed, you know, day one back before the inaugural season. And, you know, I've been there with you guys through your highs and your lows. And, you know, some of the other guys here I think are you know, have to kind of get in line now because I'm the original Outlaws fan.
Well, that's great.
So with the home and away coming, you know, season coming here, are there any cities that you're really, really looking forward to being able to visit?
I mean, I'm really excited to go back to the East Coast a little bit more. I'm obviously from there originally, but I mean, France, like I think we're going to Paris once. We're not really going intercontinental too much, which I think is unfortunate in some capacity, but I would love to go back to China, and I've never actually seen Seoul, Korea, so that's definitely on my agenda, but I think over the next couple of years we'll probably be out there. But for right now, I think hitting the East Coast hard all year long is pretty much, you know, where we're going to be, so that's going to be cool. I mean, it'll be very different. I'm actually more excited to see, I guess, how each team handles their home stands, because I think every weekend will be a new experience, and you'll see like an evolution of, oh, this team did that, so maybe we should do this. And then like the first couple weeks will probably be really rough and feel kind of rushed, and then I think towards the end everything will feel really, really
Is
good.
there anything from LA that you think you're going to miss?
The weather, but that's about it. I mean, that's really how LA is. It's like you get used to the weather. The weather's really good, but everything else is kind of...
I feel you. We're located in Michigan, and we just got our first snow of the year the other day, so we're having a ball up here. I think really sort of the last thing that I want to know, you guys only have to face Dallas once this year for the regular season. Is there any other team that the guys sort of look at as like their rivals?
This year, I mean, I would have said like Fusion or something last year or this year even, but a lot of the teams had a lot of turnover, so I don't really know if that's the case anymore. It's like hard to be rivals with an organization versus like a, you know, like a team or a group of players. So I think Fusion's had like a pretty massive overhaul in their, you know, players this year. So I don't know if they're the answer. Boston as well. I mean, Boston, we've had a lot of really good matches with Boston and like some nail biter, you know, decider matches. And I think like Seoul was another team, but all of those teams I just mentioned have gone really off the deep end with their rosters. So I'm not really sure, you know, what the answer to that question is anymore.
All right. Well, I mean, since I have you here on Discord, and you know, we are talking Overwatch here, and I kind of want to christen this new partnership here with a quick play of Overwatch, if you'll join me for it.
I am super down for some high intensity quick play.
I like your player icon that you got there. I'm a fan of it.
Yeah, this is the original one.
We
need new ones actually with the petition for some.
We're gonna do quick play classic, so we're not waiting, you know, 20 minutes in queue.
This is one of the rare opportunities to see me play Overwatch in a very long time.
Do you have a main? Are you a one trick?
No, not anymore. I mean, season 1 I was like really big on Tracer, and then I spammed Ana for a while on Zarya.
Tracer was one Tracer was one of my first ones, and then I realized that I'm a support main. So then I switched over to Mercy and have basically played her sort of since. Although almost plat on DPS last season, which surprised me.
Hell yeah. I'm looking through these player icons. I'm trying to find a fashionable choice for myself.
Oh, King's Row, classic.
The greatest.
Well, I'm gonna go with what I know.
See, I'm scared now. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of
Yeah,
pressure
well,
here.
we already got the Shimada brothers. If they could round us out with a Torbjorn or a Bastion, I mean, we'd be set. Oh, all right. Dreadpool wants mercy. Fair enough. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Now you're going to have to
Oh,
diversify.
no. All right, we're just going to go with the Zenyatta.
But so I guess from your perspective, I guess, what does this mean to you? I mean, you guys have your own group over there. You obviously have the company, and I'm not super well
You know,
networked with it at this point. But
one of the things that I've always appreciated about the Outlaws, you know, even this year with you guys adding more to the roster, is, you know, going now into the third season, you guys still have retained quite a bit of the core, you know, group that was there for the inaugural season. You know, I know you guys just released Bonnie last week, but, you know, I really feel for, like, you know, guys who are, you know, big fans of the Uprising. You know, they get really invested in, like, Gamsu and Note, and then they end up getting traded, which, you know, is just kind of the nature of the scene right now. But you know, it's really cool to see you sort of keeping a decent amount of that core together.
no, I mean, it's a little deliberate, I guess, at the end of the day. It's just a little hard to, you know, figure out what's what. When you get into, like, these decisions, it's like, do you want to focus on, you know, the branding and the marketing, or continuity in the roster is, like, a big deal to some people, maybe not everybody, but it definitely has its benefits and I guess also some negatives. But from a fan perspective, I think it's great.
Oh, people are gonna be judging me so hard.
It's okay. We'll get this Roadhog eventually. I got him.
There we go.
This feels weird. I haven't touched this game in so long.
Oh, get back, me. Oh yeah, it's going
We're
well.
owning. Villager 21 is carrying us pretty hard. And then I guess, what does this mean for you guys, you know, making your show and stuff? Because obviously I'm not super privy to it yet.
Yeah,
but
so you know, we
expecting a lot more of it.
were the first you know, fully syndicated talk show dedicated to esports and gaming on the radio. So whoops, not paying attention. You know, so we cover obviously esports. We also cover a little bit of you know, sort of gaming in general as well. And you know, it's going to be, I think, really cool to have you know, a little bit better access. You know, we're also working to hopefully bring some Uprising and some Philly stuff to the show as well, because those are two of our big markets. For me personally, you know, being able to you know, play with the general manager of the Outlaws is really, really cool. You know, when I found out not more than just a few hours ago, it's like, okay, I get to embarrass myself in front of some real professionals instead of just you know, our usual stream.
That Genji just got absolutely demolished.
Oh, that might have been a little premature.
Do you feel
of me.
like any pressure being like one of the few, you know, radio stations that's focusing so much
No,
on
no,
esports?
actually, because you know, before we did this, we were actually just doing like podcasting, you know, just talking about games and esports in our spare time, and we kind of used that to create a demo reel that Beasley eventually picked up Checkpoint with, and for a lot of the time, you know, especially Nate, our main host, you know, he's been doing radio for a long time and trying to sell this idea of you know, that people want to listen to gaming and esports related content. And a lot of the old heads in radio were like, no, they really don't. And, you know, Beasley really took a chance on us. So, you know, you'd think that I would feel a little bit of pressure behind that. I guess in some cases there are, but, you know, really it's just, I think the overwhelming responses that we've gotten, you know, from our fans and from our listeners just kind of shows you, like, no, people do want this. And Doomfist. And that kind of helps to alleviate any of the, you know, stress or the pressure that I think we would have felt
So I guess
otherwise.
let me ask you something else. Are you guys like streaming and also Are you streaming on Twitch and also streaming radio at the same time?
No. So
we
we record our show, and we're actually going through a little bit of a structural change here going into the new year. But the way that it was working is that we were doing a 2-hour Twitch show right here on our Twitch channel, Monday through Friday, and we would take the best segments from that and turn them into a 2-hour national show that then gets put out to our affiliates, which is I think 60 or 70 affiliates we have right now across North America.
Cool. Oh, that's cool. That sounds awesome.
Oh, we are rocking this. This bodes very well for our partnership.
And I think it's really interesting too, and I think positive from my perspective that like Beasley is so into, I guess, like progressing media on the whole. Like they're not like going into this like fully invested in esports or anything. It's versus like some teams I think are a little bit more all in on it, whereas like they view this as more of a gateway. So like something.
Yeah, and I mean we've gotten really great responses and encouragement from a lot of the scene as well. When we went out to E3 a few years ago, we also reached out to Blizzard and were able to come out and watch a few matches. In fact, the first match that I ever watched was when you guys defeated the Shock in 2008. No. It would have been this year because I've also bought my Jake third kit jersey to celebrate it.
Yeah, that must have been recently.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good day to show up.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, I'm super stuck. But no, the guys at Blizzard have always been like, we're really excited about. Oh my man, terrible reaction.
Everything is bad. Everything is bad.
It's because I said that we were killing it.
Yeah, the Shorthawk's just annoying me.
But we've done some stuff with like Rocket League. They were really supportive of it too. I think it's really cool for people to hear that radio, which is one of the older sort of medias, which is I think historically been a little slow to adapt to newer trends. Is really into it. And it's really cool for them to hear the stuff that we're doing. So.
I mean, that's good. It's like, I know everyone uses radio, right? It's like one of those things that, like, even if you think radio is not as popular anymore,
even
like,
if you don't realize that you're doing it, yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, especially out in LA, right? You guys, drive 2 miles, you're in traffic for 3 hours.
You're in traffic for 2 hours, yeah. So the ratio there is probably pretty high. No, I mean, but that's true. And then the more ears, obviously, the more potential for conversion there is.
Oh, Widow.
Alright, this is where we win.
Oh, Genji, I'm sorry.
Good thing we didn't lose here or something, because it would look really bad, for the purposes of what we're trying to do here.
Oh, we got him. We got this.
Although hopefully I didn't speak too soon.
Racer.
Oh god.
No, we still got time. We got 3 minutes. Knock on. I have no wood to knock on. Oh, we did it. Woo! There we go.
I got off the car.
The christening quick play. We did it. Victory.
My first game of Overwatch with a new owner.
Oh, I can't even commentate yet.
And I got to play the game.
I always commentate my healers first.
I just got 3 endorsements. I'm ready to go.
Well, all right, there we go, Flame. I appreciate it. You giving us some of your time tonight to talk with us and to play a quick game or a quick play with me. That was definitely something that I can tick off of my bucket list.
I can tick off my yearly to-do list.
And we definitely look forward to the partnership and what what it's going to bring for both of our organizations.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm super
question
excited.
from the chat.
Of course.
So, Final Sights in the chat says 2020 is going to be a hard year with lots of trials. I'd love to hear some general ideas on how the new ownership will help the team get in touch with their city's fan base. So, kind of what are the plans to reach out to the denizens of Houston?
Mm-hmm.
So Texas on the whole, I think has been very, critical for us just from a fan and a potential sponsorships perspective. There's like obviously a lot of stuff that we couldn't do in LA that we can definitely do in Houston. Like if you look at our HEB sponsorship last year, there were so many events that HEB wanted to put on that were just like not super feasible because we're in LA and the schedule's pretty rough. So I think like having this ability now to finally do a lot more local events, just because instead of taking a 4-hour flight, we're taking like a 5-minute drive or something. It like opens up a lot of doors to be like showing up to a lot more Houston local parties or events kind of thing. Like if there's like a fair or a convention or something that maybe only the Houston or the San Antonio or Austin crowds know about, there's like a lot more potential for us to just be there and to do a lot more stuff like we did in year one around like fan signings and show matches and stuff like that. So I think having the ability to be there with the fans finally versus just kind of relying on some people. I know that there were so many fans from Texas that would fly out to Blizzard Arena and they would like try to meet up with us and say hi, but you always feel kind of bad because you're like the LA teams kind of had this leg up that their fans could just drive down to Blizzard Arena, but if you're a Houston fan from Houston or anywhere else, it's kind of hard. And I think one thing that we did really well year one was we expanded our fan base beyond just Texas. So I do think we'll have a lot of turnout, elsewhere, whether it's going to Washington or Boston or New York. I know that those like fans exist, but Houston especially, like I'm super, super ready to like finally be able to do an event, every month or a couple months versus like once a year. And so I think that like the Texas fans are going to be a lot more involved this year than they ever could have been in the past.
I'm actually going to be a little bit selfish and take one more quick play with you. And, from our end to answer that, actually, one of the things that I've always loved about esports, and I think that both esports of all scenes can do better, and something that we're always looking to help promote is, I think that people want to know more about their athletes and their stars and their favorites, and I think that that's always one of the aspects of interviews that I try to embrace is, not just talking about the sport or the plays, but trying to put those personalities out there a little bit more, because I think that's definitely something that esports is taken a minute to sort of get to, getting past the idea that, they're all introverts or they don't know how to do interviews. And when you find, the stars like your Jakes and your Rockuses, for example, that you really need to take the time to, put their faces and their voices out there and really get to know them.
Yeah, I mean, to go off that, like year one, we had obviously a lot of budget when it came to marketing and content pushing. And we had a lot of the optic, backbone, and there were a lot of really talented people in that group that were really good at pumping out video content and, editing. And then I think last year with the sale, we're just kind of like in this loop of not really having that. And so this year, I think with Beasley at the forefront of it, I think pumping out really good personal, content that's like less focused on just gameplay and more focused on the players and, their personalities and how they interact on a daily basis, and kind of going back to that year one push, but like with obviously a bigger megaphone, if you will, to do that with all these, radio and media capabilities that Beasley has. I think that the fans and anyone interested, the YouTube crowd will get a lot more of a closer look at what goes on behind the scenes, as well as like how the players are as human beings versus how they are as gamers.
Joining us here now over on the mic 2 position, we have Norris Howard, who's another one of our hosts, and the other sort of Overwatch pro that we have here on the cast.
That's right. So Norris from the checkpoint team here. I definitely wanted to ask you, going to Houston, what y'all gonna do to Dallas? I'm trying to see the turn up, man. I don't want to see no happy Dallas fans. You're officially part of the family. So what's up? Are you looking forward to that in-state life now that everybody?
Yeah, I want to know who they have. I guess like that's my biggest question right now, because their roster is also changing. Like we're going back to, it's like this year 3 has been like the season of, I don't know what the word is, the season of jumble, if you will. Like everyone's just kind of throwing away their teams. So like a lot of the players that we had the rivalries or like the good relationships with year one and the fun banter, I don't know if they'll be starting anymore, if they're even like part of that roster.
Yeah, we're
and the homestand was actually like hype last year. Like that Dallas homestand was like very much 50-50 Outlaws Dallas, which was shocking to a lot of people, but I guess not to us. And I think that like having that representation again this year is going to be just as important. I'm like actually really hoping that a lot of Houston fans show up to Dallas, not to push Dallas's sales or anything, but having the home crowd when you're away is a very large
Yeah.
mental warfare game 1.
So we heard some folks said we had a low mic in the chat. I just want to say I just asked them about the rivalry now between Houston and Dallas. Definitely not everybody will be in Texas. That was the big question for me. I wanted to hear from Flame what was going on with that rivalry because we know it's one of the biggest in Overwatch.
Well, and we're not very big Houston fans here. Never really have
You mean
been.
Dallas?
Dallas fans. We're huge Dallas fans.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, Houston fans. Oh, I'm muck-mouthing it all
Those
up.
48
Yeah.
slips.
No. You go back onto we do a podcast, Low Team Damage, and man, every day we'd have like a wall of text from a Dallas fan being like, "You guys gotta take it easy. It's not their fault."
They play. They're players.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mhm.
I'm going. Thanks, Flame. Welcome to the team. We're so happy that everything is going down with you guys, and we look forward to everything that the Outlaws do in the 2020 season. And we're super excited here, man. We're
nice.
finding out just like everybody else, so we're mad excited.
No, I mean, that's great. I think everyone on the team shares my sentiments too, that, you know, everyone's just like really happy to be here and finally have someone, you know, ready to make history with us.
And I think with this roster that you have up so far, man, I'm so excited for it. I lost it the day that you guys announced that you got Harsha.
Harsha's great. I mean, having someone from Houston that wants to work in Houston, like, it was just kind of like this match made in heaven that, you know, it's like on paper it sounds really good, but you're never really sure if this is actually possible. I guess similar to like picking up Dante last year. It was like one of those things that we were always talking about. Yeah, we were always like talking like, oh, it'd be cool if we got Dante, but it never really seemed like it was like a possibility. But
Yeah, his Sombra.
when it finally happens, you're like,
His
oh,
Sombra
damn.
always blew my mind.
All right, this game's looking
It's not looking great.
Definitely not looking great.
This Tracer and this Doomfist, man.
Okay, I have a new plan. Actually,
A speedy recovery. Damage will
Ah.
engage.
actually, the hero right now is Brig, and you know, chat, you can hate me all you want, but it needs to be done.
So the chat is going to absolutely lose their minds if I don't at least pose the question. Would you say that the roster is pretty much set, or might there be some more moving and shaking going on if you're able to answer?
No, there's definitely. I mean, there's definitely more shaking coming. I've been pretty like not candid about that, but as to when, I'm not sure when the announcements are coming out, but stay tuned for them, I guess.
Oh no.
I'll let everyone know when we're done.
we will appreciate that. All right, Mercy's not doing it. What do we got here? We can use another tank. Let me bring out the old Rhine. I mained Rhine for a few seasons. So, how are the guys feeling about the new PTR changes that just came through?
I mean, they're pumped. Anything that gets away from double shield is good. I mean, I think Overwatch needs more patches like that, honestly, because it's just, even if some meta comes out of this patch that, you know, isn't that fun or winds up being some other form of shields, at least it took like a little while to get there, and then you get like those couple months of, you know, people figuring out what's good and what's bad, as opposed to spamming the same thing for 6
Well, and I
months.
think the buffs to the armor and some of the survivability too will hopefully kind of even it out, so it's not like tanks have just been nerfed into the ground.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, it gets a few of the other heroes like a lot more prevalent, because you get heroes like Diva who have high armor stacks, or Reinhardt with high armor stacks. So at least if they're nerfing the shields, you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck on the armor.
So that one didn't count. That wasn't the one that christened the partnership, so don't nobody worry about that one. The first one, that was the important one.
That's true. We started strong. This isn't the first game anymore. This is.
Oh man.
We got stream sniped. I'll blame it on that.
That's exactly what it was. I get any highlights at least? Oh, I got a Zenyatta highlight.
So I guess, I don't know, there's a question in the chat that came up actually on Reddit the other day. Was there an official announcement on Dante's team option for 2020? Dante's been re-signed, and he's been re-signed since, like, I don't know, whenever, like, the first day you could declare a player is re-signed. But I don't think teams were announcing that. I think that list that Blizzard put out that was, like, you know, the team option thing, I think that was supposed to get updated when our, like, option had gone through, but it never did, so people were like unsure. But I don't think other teams announced option pickups. They only announced option, you know, declines. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that there were that many that announced retakes. Like you had like the Arc, you had like Arc.
I think for the most part you're right. The only one that I can recall off the top of my head is Washington said that Corey was staying with them, but for the most part, yeah, it was only if they had acquired someone or if they were releasing someone.
Yeah, or maybe if they had signed a new contract. But so Dante's still on his
so
option.
you guys heard it here first. Dante is in fact staying. That makes me feel. Oh, see, now I don't know. Do I get a Dante jersey or do I get a? I still need a regular Jake jersey as well. Oh, Noah Rockus one. See, it's so hard. I need all the jerseys.
That's where you just say like none of them and you get hydration. That's where my brain goes when you start naming that. Or Muma. Yeah, Muma's a good one.
I have Muma's Team USA jersey from 2018.
All right, there we go.
Well, is there any other questions in the chat here? Let's see. Who was Flame playing? He started on Orisa and then switched to Brigitte at the end there.
Did not work out. It was a rough game for everyone.
Someone says they have the OG Clockwork jersey. I actually got out at the grand finals. I got a Clockwork trading card. Ooh. Yeah, I need to get that signed someday.
Some of those are pretty funny because I've seen like a Mendo card like recently.
Oh, I was, you know,
and I'm like, that is some vintage, once in a lifetime. Those will never exist.
You know,
kind of things,
if you can share the story with me, how come we never got to see Mendo on stage?
I mean, without going too much into like, you know, the nitty gritty or whatever, I think Mendo and the team didn't really hit it off initially like too well, and I think Mendo had a lot of trouble transitioning to the schedule of Overwatch League, coming from like a streamer to something else, and there was a lot of pressure that I think he put on himself to perform, and then I guess like I mean I don't want to say it imposter syndrome, but maybe in his head he was a little uncertain, and then it led to a lot of confidence issues. But he's definitely gotten a lot better, and I still talk to him actually on a pretty, I don't want to say regular basis, but every now and then I check in to see, you know, how
he's been
doing,
killing it in Apex. I mean, he's pretty sure he still holds the world record for the most kills in a single match.
Yeah, it was pretty wild that game.
Yeah.
But he's doing well, and I mean, there's no hard feelings I think between the players and him. It's just it is what it is.
For sure. All right, well, let's see. How has the internal reaction to the Reddit Jake to Atlanta Korean rumor? What? Was that a rumor?
I'm actually, what's the dumbest rumor you've heard this about your own team? I think Jake to Atlanta might be the dumbest rumor I've heard about my own team. Off-season's been pretty clean for Outlaws, I will say. This announcement didn't get leaked, which is honestly
I was waiting
impressive.
for it. Yeah.
If anyone wants to talk about the most impressive non-leak of this offseason, I think it was this one. And I mean, I haven't known terribly long. I mean, I've known for a long time, but I've definitely known longer than would have been appropriate for someone to have leaked by now. I
take
guess,
that, Slasher.
But even our roster moves have been pretty quiet. I don't think Harsha was like predicted. I don't think anyone knew Harsha. I don't think people knew about hydration until we announced it either.
Yep,
so
that was another one that
good.
caught me by surprise as well. I mean, almost everything that you guys have announced, you know, Blase as well. I was going off the hook about. No,
well, some of those I think happened really quick. Like the Blase transaction was like a very, I don't want to say done and dirty, but like quick. Like there wasn't really much prep, so there wasn't really much time for someone to get their hands on it. And then getting stuff done like that is obviously beneficial, but also a little bit scarier.
All right. Any? Here we got one from Mars is waiting. Any word on tanks from East Coast teams from cities known as Large Fruit? What?
I'm sure there's like a joke here or a player name that I'm not thinking of.
I'm missing that one, unfortunately. Do we think we're gonna slap Dallas? All right. Look. So from a longtime Houston fan, this is all I have to say about that, and you just gotta tell me it's gonna happen. Because in season 1, you guys faced them 3, maybe 4 times total, and you stomped them every single time. And then
City is known as large fruit, as in the Big Apple.
Oh.
Wow, so smart. I mean, I don't want to comment on like anything for those players in particular because I'm not sure where their heads are at. It's like actually really detrimental if a announcement gets leaked that's wrong, or right even, because you wind up like hurting potential possibilities for those players. So I don't want to dabble on rumors too much yet. I've seen a lot of good rumors. I've seen a lot of bad rumors, I guess, on Reddit recently. But I know for a fact that some players have lost, potential options or transactions because of leaks.
Oh,
or
wow.
Teams thinking, oh, this player is going here, so I'm not going to talk to them. And then they wind up not getting picked up because of that. So I don't really want to comment too much on that. But I definitely think Jake to Atlanta was probably the dumbest thing that I've seen.
that would have broke my heart. That would have absolutely broke my heart to see Jake honestly go anywhere else.
It would have been funny though if we like traded him for Baby Bay and then they did like that Chris Brown video thing together.
But
why pick up Blase and hydration? I mean, we could turn this into. I don't want to turn this into an AMA unless you guys want to turn this into an AMA. But the hero pools thing is actually interesting because I don't think people realize like how different Blase and hydration's hero pools are. I mean, there's obviously overlap, but hydration's kind of like proven himself on like everything. So I think hydration is just like a good 7th man, if that makes sense. Like it doesn't matter what hero or like person gets sick or messed up or anything. Hydration's like main tank. Hydration actually had like a lot of offers on main tank this season, but nobody really knows that because Hydration's entire off season was pretty quick and hush hush. But Hydration had multiple main tank offers this off season and then a few off tank offers as well. And he's obviously played Lucio, so like suddenly you just have this player that can kind of fill everything.
I love how the focus is starting to go on to players with more versatility than like one tricks or specialists, which I feel like back in the first season is what everyone seemed to have been really focused on.
Well, season 1 was like, I mean, from Outlaw's perspective, we were pretty good. I mean, it wasn't like the best season ever. Obviously, we missed playoffs by like a game or two, but when you like look at the way that the game was back then, you could get away with like the McCree, the McCree Junkrat strats, or like the Hanzo Widow strats, or maybe Tracer Widow strats. And so it was a lot more big on diversity and like hero swapping. And then season 2 was pretty much like goats the entire time. And then you wind up in this position where if you have the team that has like the most stagnant hero pools, they're kind of the same. Like they kind of excel rather. They like their entire season's up in one. They're all in on that one strat, and if they're the best team at that strat, then they own. But if we wind up in a position now where like people are talking about Overwatch 2, or I mean I don't know how many heroes are coming out between now and Overwatch League. Maybe it is only going to be 1, but if it's 2 or 3, or there's another patch as big as this one, maybe I need a Torb main. I mean like maybe not that drastic, but the point is like if you want your team to be meta proof. And I think a lot of skill was lost in season 2 because of people playing stuff like Moira, Lucio, all these like shields. And I'm not going to say Doomfist is skillless, but your like aim necessity is a lot lower than a hero like Tracer or Widowmaker. And so having people who are just good at the game versus good at a specific role has a lot of value. And I think players like Blase, who I think is honestly one of the best Brigidas in the game. I'm not saying that he's going to be our main support, but if you wind up in a position where Brigitte is meta again, then like I have Blase, right? It doesn't matter that he's a DPS on paper or on whatever league website. So I think viewing it from that perspective is like, it's different, but it has its benefits.
So, with the exception of like the Shock and the Titans, which would be obvious choices, who haven't had a lot of roster movements right now, what team are you looking at right now that you think is going to be an absolute beast going into the 2020 season?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I would say Titan stock is on the decline this season.
Really?
Because they are losing players and making, decisions that are questionable in my opinion. I don't really want to like, go in on them at all too much. But I think Charge is doing pretty well. Like Charge has been announcing a lot of changes, and they're like, beefing up their roster. Shanghai as well. I mean, Shanghai was kind of like the meme team in season 1, but season 2, they're obviously a lot better. And now I think they just picked up Fleta. So they have like a lot of potential, and so does Seoul. I mean, they're like flexing their bank accounts with profit and gesture, but if that team works out, then like they could also own. So I think the Korean and Chinese teams are actually up in their game a lot this offseason. I think Shock might run into the same problem that maybe Spitfire did, where like once you win once, it's kind of hard to win again. But obviously, Shock on paper looks just as good as they ever did. It's just a matter of where the meta lands, and then I think next season will be a big test on coaching, because you saw a lot of coaches get replaced or shuffled, and so there's obviously a big focus on that. And I think even Shock lost one of their coaches, or a couple of their coaches even, to go become head coaches elsewhere. So I think teams will start, their coaches are going to have to kind of pick up the slack, because I think this is the first season where you've had a year under your belt, you've had 2 years under your belt, as opposed to coming in fresh and not really having the experience of Overwatch.
Yeah,
League.
personally keeping my eyes on Toronto after some of the big grabs that they got. They took Nevix from the Shock, having Surefour, Agilities, Logix, and Mangachu for their DPS as well.
Yeah, they have a lot of good like big household names, and we'll see how that works out. I mean, again, that's another question of like coaching staff, in my opinion, because they also just gutted their coaching staff. If that team works out, then they have like massive potential. But I think it also has potential to go like terribly wrong.
Oh, sure,
right?
sure. You need that synergy. I mean, Fissure was a huge name in seasons 1 and 2, and the teams that they put him on, they did all right, but not as well as I thought that they would do. Putting Fissure in those positions.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at. I think we're gonna be really good next year. I mean, I don't want to like go all in on myself or toot our own horn yet.
Oh no.
Outlaws,
we
this is definitely gonna be, I think, in my opinion, the strongest season for Outlaws, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all shapes up. I think that the only thing I'm scared of, I guess, and maybe the Houston fans or the Texas fans in general, or maybe even just like the Southern Hemisphere fans or Southern coast fans can tell me about. But like one of the things I'm super worried about is trips to Philly and New York and Boston and then back to Houston. So like I think our travel is really light. Obviously, we're only going like maybe 3 hours max, but I think we're gonna have the highest change in temperature.
Oh yeah.
between our matches. So like a flight from Houston to Boston in January, February has like potential to go from like, I don't know, 70 to like the
Oh yeah,
teens.
hopefully you'll get lucky and come
so
in during like 4 feet of snow.
Yeah, well, exactly. So like stuff like that, I feel like has potential to get people pretty sick.
That's true as well.
Like, that's actually one of my biggest pushes this year, is just making sure that everyone's healthy and on top of their vitamin game, because I think that's like a new level of adversity that the league hasn't really had the ability to experience.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm constantly trying to talk about, especially when we see players retiring for streaming or coming in and out of the league, is the whole franchise model in the pro plays. It's a whole different game than what I think the esports scenes have been used to. And now when you're adding traveling on top of it, there may be some people that as they get into this realize that as much as they love the game or as much as they want to be there, they just don't have what they what they need to be able to cut it, to be able to get through it, because traveling week over week it's a lot.
Yeah, some people just hate flying, or maybe they don't know that they hate flying, but they'll find out soon. They'll find out soon enough, So we'll see. It'll be interesting. I think you'll see a lot more emphasis on subs. I think some teams might dig themselves a hole if they don't have enough backups this year, because of just how prevalent, getting the flu once.
Right. Yeah. It's one of the big
weeks.
things that I'm worried about for some of these teams like the Shock, who we don't really see them adding a whole lot. I mean, if they plan on just trying to run Super and Troy Oben all season long, if one of them gets sick, what do they do at that point with no Nevix on the bench?
Yeah, and then I guess you're also finding like this emphasis on on academy teams, but a lot of teams are dropping their academy teams. So if you don't have that ability to just go pull a player up real quick, then you're kind of out of luck if you don't have the right players. So I think, people meme on the fact that we have 5 DPS players right now, but if you look at it from a more strategic standpoint, you don't need to play all 5 at the same time. And if you have players that can go play support, like if Hydration needs to sub in for Lucio or Hydration needs to sub in for main tank, there's like value there from a roster perspective, but even if it's not super apparent on paper with your quote-unquote overlapping hero pool.
I actually have an interesting question here, wondering about where you'll find the time to practice while traveling. Do the guys they gonna be able to practice at the other team's facilities? You guys have to figure that out on your own.
I think it's like on the teams who are running the homestand to provide like adequate. I don't know what the definition of adequate is. Practice facilities. So like I'd imagine that a lot of teams are going to try to minimize their ability, or they're going to minimize their time traveling or their duration on a trip. So like if you have a match on Saturday, I'd expect a lot of teams to try flying in on like Friday night versus like Thursday. And I know some teams are already thinking about flying in like Saturday morning for a Saturday match, which I think is crazy. But I think the emphasis or the logic there is that you'll get better practice the night before or something. But I think every team's going to have its own strategy, and then we'll see which one works. But stuff like that is a little bit of a toss-up, and I think like, you know, one of those like hidden metrics that you don't really see on the stats pages at the end of your match, like sleep last night, you know. And so, or just like energy this morning, you know, like how many carbs they had ingested that day just to know how much energy they could have possibly had. So like stuff like that is like pretty big. And I think that like every team's going to do their own thing, and some will have different strategies, and like finding a system that works and that the players buy into is like obviously going to be like a brand new thing that never existed before. But yeah, I mean, the teams are responsible for giving practice, but I would imagine a lot of teams are going to try to do their best to not rely on it so that they can, you know, have their upper hand or do it themselves. I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to go renting out LAN PCs or cafes every single time we fly, but if a team had the ability to do that from a budget standpoint, like obviously that would bring a lot of value. And I don't really think that there's any LAN cafe, what's the word? Like countrywide franchises of LAN cafes
Right.
to like go get a sponsor with. But I mean, if there was, then that'd be the place to go right now, you know?
All right, I got one more non-Overwatch question that I wanted to just pick your brain about just a little bit more. You said that one of the things that you're most looking forward to about going to Houston down to Texas is you want to go to a rodeo.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about a rodeo that fascinates you so much? And how have you not? I mean, maybe they're just more commonplace where I'm from, but I don't know. That seems like a weird thing to have never been to before.
I mean, I'm not from Texas. I've never lived in Texas. I've been to Texas like for maybe a week total tops.
Well, you know, there's rodeos elsewhere as well.
Well, yeah, for sure. But I haven't seen one. I've also like never in a position where someone's like, "Hey, you want to go to a rodeo this week?" But that'd be sick. You know, like it's one of those, I feel like it's one of those things you just have to like try or like do to experience. And like the whole cowboy like kind of mindset, I don't think it's super prevalent in Houston where we're at, but I want to like see it firsthand. I mean, I think like the entire like middle of the country has like its own culture, and like I learn that more and more every time I go down there. But stuff like that you don't, I mean, there's no rodeos in LA, there's no rodeos in New York.
You know, so, like, I bet if you looked around,
and if there are, maybe there, I mean, there's like medieval times, you know, which is like as non-rodeo as you can get, but probably the closest you can get as well. There's horses and there's people, you know, with some weapons, but we've never done it, so it's just I think that if there was ever like an easy content piece to be made, it's like Outlaws at the rodeo.
Best rodeo I ever went to, one of the guys got thrown into the fence, cracked his head open, and he took one of the horns off of the bull when he went over it.
Yeah, see, this sounds dangerous.
It's extremely dangerous.
Fun, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna do what they're gonna do, right? You can't stop people from hurting themselves, but I mean, it's a form of entertainment in some capacity. But I mean, that's definitely there. And I mean, I've heard the food's really good. I haven't had like any super good barbecue yet. I haven't like gone out of my way to look for it because every time I go down there, I'm like in and out very quick. But I know I've heard the meat down there is super good, and I've heard that like Houston itself as a city is like incredibly diverse. So I'm like really interested in like what that means and how it looks down there because I've never really been to the downtown either. But
all right.
Well,
Flame, you know, once again, thanks for joining us. I don't want to take up too much of your time here tonight. So, you know, we look forward to the Beasley partnership. And for those of you who are joining us in chat, you know, make sure you hit the follow button, come back and check out Checkpoint XP, and head on over to the website, checkpointxp.com, as we have plenty of esports, gaming, and some Outlaws content over there as well. Flame, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the future.
All right, everyone else, have a good night.